Welcome back to This Resilient Philosopher. This is the Leon Dantes, and today I want to talk about a subject that really hits home. It is actually seeing our downfalls as our biggest attributes. Growing up, I didn't know that I was bipolar and that I had ADHD. And for a lot of time in my life, I thought I was different. I thought it was me. When I spoke to my parents about my emotional states, they would just say, it's all you. It's about you. You need to change. You need to be better. You need to improve. And they were right. They were right, but they didn't know how they were right. And not explaining how they were right made them wrong. I've learned that when we let our problems, our mental issues take control of our life and dictate how we need to live life, that is a downfall. Our mental health is actually our biggest asset, is the best attribute that we can have. Having a mental health awareness brings out the ability to have emotional intelligence. Once you start creating empathy, once you start trying to understand the emotions of others and how to set boundaries within your personal emotional system or emotional ideologies or feelings, brings out the opportunity of growth. See, I've said it many times before, emotional intelligence does not mean that all of a sudden now you feel the feelings of everybody, you walk in eggshells, making sure you don't hurt nobody's feelings. No. Emotional intelligence is being able to walk into a room and not feel superior to others. Understanding that we all start at the same level. And then you utilize the emotions of everyone in the room for their best opportunities. If you have a friend that is constantly pessimist, believes everything is going to go wrong, you know that if you go up to him and say, you're absolutely right, it will go wrong, you're not helping. But having emotional intelligence allows you to be able to approach that friend and say, why? Why would you think that is going to go wrong? What is it inside of you that makes you think that it can happen wrong? What about if it goes right? What can go right? What does it have to happen for you to feel like it went right? Or better yet, create the paradox. If you believe that it's going to go bad and it goes bad, then technically it went good for you because you got what you were expecting. See, those shocks kind of takes a person out of place and starts making them think differently outside the box. Therefore, you utilize a mental issue with something positive. You use their ability to at least see the negative side of things into something positive. And that ability is emotional intelligence. When you are listening to your 5-year-old child, the problem of a 5-year-old child are nothing compared to the problems of an adult. An adult, especially the parent of that 5-year-old, has a responsibility to sustain and maintain life for that child. Has to go to work, has to come up with a paycheck, has to pay the bills, has to feed the child. But yet, emotional intelligence is what drives us to approach this child and try to understand what that child sees as a problem so big and so important that doesn't mean anything for you though. But having the ability to get there to that level and try to understand that child, That is emotional intelligence. As you've seen, emotional intelligence is not changing your emotions. As you accept other people's emotions, you have the right to have your own emotions on a subject or on a matter. But what it is important to achieve emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence is within nature. It's part of how the animal kingdom works. No animal maliciously hurts another animal or purposely obstructs their opportunity of success. The wolf doesn't walk around the forest and sees a hiding spot for a fox and says, I'm going to bury it so the fox doesn't have a place to sleep tonight. Those are things that we, the human species, are capable of doing. We maliciously do things to hurt others, meaning or without meaning to, but we are capable of doing such things. And so is the rest of the animal kingdom, but their natural emotional intelligence gives them what I consider a common sense that we are part, all of us, of the ecology of life. And when you have that mindset, when you start understanding that the person that cleans the janitor is as important to a company as it is the electrician, the plumber, the carpenter, the roofer, the assistant, the executive, and the CEO. Because working together creates the atmosphere to bring business into the building, to promote business from the building. So if the whole combined body of that corporation or company doesn't come together to work together, then they can potentially lose business. So if a CEO, or let's say an executive from that company and that building, sees the janitor as inferior to them for their lack of education, just remember, that janitor is the one that cleans the toilet, that cleans the faucets, that cleans the sinks. If that janitor doesn't come in, will you clean it? Or do you still feel too superior to do such jobs? And that is why emotional intelligence is needed. Because now you are capable of having empathy and understanding. As important as I might think I am, so is that janitor. And that ability is what humanity has lost. I live within what they consider here in the United States the Bible Belt. All I hear is how humanity is getting worse because they have forgotten about God. We need more of God in our lives. We need more God. God is everything. And it's not that I am against that. Particularly, I'm a spiritualist. I am more of an agnostic spiritualist because I believe in science. I also believe as the spiritual side as the self, us, as a living flesh, but also as energy that transforms and never dies. That to me is our spiritual side, our self, our spirit. But nevertheless, I don't really talk about that to others here within the community because their point of view and the importance of a God, and specifically their Christian God, is above everything else. But recently, I took a chance. And I mentioned to one of those people, I said, I agree but disagree with you. I agree that people don't talk about God as much as they used to. But I also disagree because we have forgotten how to be humans. We have forgotten the importance of empathy, the importance of altruism, the importance of doing what's right because it's the right thing to do. You see, you claim to follow Jesus, the Son of God, or God himself. depending on which denomination of Christianity you go to. But do you remember that the most important part about Jesus was his leadership style? He was a servant leader. And overall, most importantly, he was a spiritual philosopher. He was not a Christian, as I've spoken in the past, the first episode of season 3. But what's more important to analyze from that is that we have forgotten to do that. We got churches, mega churches here in the United States of America, with pastors that have over $130 million in their bank, wanting private jets, have a airstrip in the back of their mansions or estates. Those are things that Jesus didn't seek. Actually, Jesus did say to a rich man that in order for him to follow Jesus, he had to get rid of his riches. And the man couldn't do it, so he walked away. But yet, you got priests that preach the wealth gospel. Those things don't make sense. The greed that has succumbed to humans is their lust of identity as a species. That is their God. Humans have created God to justify themselves in their point of views. To a millionaire, a billionaire, Jesus was rich. To a poor man, Jesus was poor. And that perspective and the inability of coming together is what really has changed in humanity. Not the lack of God. Before the concept of God, humans were already evolving. Humans were changing in the caves, painting. And when they couldn't, when their self-awareness got to a certain place, when their consciousness got to a certain place, they themselves needed more. And out of that need rose God. But when did we forget how to be humans? We forgot how to be humans because we lost the ability to feel empathy. We lost the ability of doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do. Altruism. And then all of a sudden it was all about, what can I get? What do I obtain from this? How do I get benefited? And by doing so, emotional intelligence slowly drift away. Now, in our days, in the 21st century, in the year 25 or 2025, we're seeing more and more how in the last 20 years, give or take, the glorification of influencers went up the roof. The glorification of TV hosts, music stars, artists went up the roof. We started rewarding fame for intelligence. We started rewarding greed for empathy. And we slowly drifted away from the reality that we are all needed in this world. We are all part of a puzzle that creates the entire human species. And in that puzzle, we are all a piece of it. And we just have to find the right spot where we come together. Once you find that spot, that is when real growth starts to happen. Not when people tell you you're different, you need to change, you need to be different, you don't fit our cookie cutter ideology of what you need to be. No. No, real growth happens when you realize that you're different, but you need to learn how to fit in. You need to learn why you're different. What is it about you that makes you unique? And once you learn that, whether it's good or bad, you build upon it. And if you want to make it good, but your traits is bad, then you have to learn to remove those bad traits and replace them with good ones. And if you feel like you're all good, that you're always being hurt by others because you give too much. Then you need to learn to give less. And the only way you're able to do that is if you keep on seeking knowledge. Knowledge in the sense of not academically, because even though it's good to have an academic knowledge, it is not everything. Academics is not life. Life, when you live it fully, is the best school, and it makes you a philosopher. Learning that it is important to see each other as one is perhaps the best lesson that you can ever learn. And that's not within any books, at least not any academic books. It's not within any religious book, because religions, I should say, they preach to be divided. One of the most divisive religions is Christianity. It has a whole lot of different denominations and a whole lot of difference within the same denomination. Whether you are Southern Baptist or Southern Methodist, I mean, there's such a different layers of denominations and how they work that it's really hard to keep up with them. Do you think a religion that divided can bring people together? How can a book from somebody who believes in such religion bring humanity together? Because even their Lord and Savior tried doing it, and he was crucified. That is why religion is part of the issues of why we have lost empathy. Because we think that just because we assume we're right and that our religion is correct, we feel superior to others. We called savages to the civilizations that were living better than the Spaniards or the English when they came to the Americas. Just because they were not Christians, just because they didn't dress like them, just because they were different. And instead of trying to learn how to live together, they just wanted to suppress them and make them change to their comfort. Make those civilizations change so they will fit into the ideology of the European beliefs, structure, and religion. That showed right there the mist or the growth of what it comes to be lack of emotional intelligence. And leadership, and most leadership books that you will read, the focus will always turn either by word, or I should say either by calling it emotional intelligence or derivatives of that such words. Even if they don't call it emotional intelligence, EI, or anything like that, I can tell you the psychology of leadership is emotional intelligence. It's not IQ as we know it. IQ, even though it's broad, it does not connect to emotions. It's all about logic, patterns, and being rational and thinking outside the box. But emotional intelligence is the hands-on, is the raw side of intelligence. It's the one that you know you shouldn't do something, but you have to do it because you have to help that person. And that has happened in my current job many times. But that is a conversation to have in a different episode. Now, once again, I would like to remind you that the best way to support our work is by sharing our work. Share our work with family members on social media. Spread the word. This is a place to talk about positive things and how to turn our negative life or the life around us that is so negative into a positive point of view. So please share this podcast this episode. And also go to our website, visionleon.com. And there you will find all 3 books that I've written for free in digital format. Now, if you would like a hardcover or a soft paperback cover, then you can go to Amazon and order it there, or in Barnes and Nobles as well. The other aspect that I want to remind you all is that we still have the GoFundMe fundraiser to help with the cost of operations of the podcast and the website. A simple donation, as much as $1, can make a difference. We're trying to come up with a minimum of $1,200, maximum of $4,000. Once that is reached, even though it's still going to be there, any donation will go towards either promoting the podcast or the website. But the most important thing is to hear from you, to get feedback with your comments on this episode or by leaving comments on the website. We all can make a difference. We all have the opportunity to grow every single day by knowing and understanding that every single day is an opportunity to learn something new. It's an opportunity to empower others by removing the excuses and addressing the issues and reasons why we're not successful. To lead is to serve by empowering others and seeing them succeed where we couldn't. But in order for any of that to happen, you must first always show up for yourself. This is Leon Dantes telling you I'll see you next week on The Resilient Philosopher.